Hey everyone, I'm here with my good friend Betsy Grindlay, and we're here at Speedway Motors, and just wanted to actually bring you to Betsy's place of work and have a conversation with you about, have a conversation with her about her work here at Speedway, and as well just kind of her work history, how she came to be here in this position. So Betsy, let's get started with the story then. Tell us a little bit about your high school experience, college, that kind of led you to maybe some of that first position out of college. I'd love for you to include a conversation with us about your strengths in that, so kind of maybe your first awareness of those differences or those behaviors that you had that you felt like you could leverage to your advantage. So talk a little bit about that with this.
Absolutely. So, like Mark said, I'm Betsy, and I currently work here at Speedway Motors. I am a Lincoln, Nebraska native and a Knight. Go Knights, if anybody else out there is one. And while I was in high school, I took a finance class that I loved, all about stock trading. And from there, I was like, I am going to be a finance major through and through. Got to college though, took some marketing classes and realized, gosh, that really fits with who I am. And it was before strengths really was a part of CBA's curriculum. So I didn't know that that's felt right, because that is actually who I am and what my strengths are. So I picked up a second major in marketing. And if any of you guys out there are a combo major of two things like that, it becomes really valuable in the workplace, because you have the numbers side of it and kind of the more connection side of it. And it's made for a really great career path for me. I've worked in banks, I've worked at Speedway, I've worked for a nonprofit. Just a really well-rounded kind of career, and I think it's because of my well-rounded education at UNL.
Great. So specifically about strengths, tell me about your top 5 strengths. Share those with us, and how you think those are just perfect for the role that you're in now.
Okay, so my 5 strengths are woo, positivity, includer, communication, and relator. And those 5 strengths, I jokingly refer to them as the Care Bear strengths. Nothing strategic about them. The number side of me would love to have like an analytical or something in there, none of that. But what I found is it actually makes me a pretty great manager, because the thing I'm really great at is getting people together and motivating them to run at a common goal. And so in the role here at Speedway, I oversee quite a few moving pieces and quite a few different types of people. And what I'm really able to do is get them all on the same page and marching towards the same goal. And I'm really grateful. It's a great set of strengths. So if anybody gives you a hard time about your strengths, they're all good.
That's great. That's a great comment. Tell us a little bit about, okay, how many people do you actually manage? What's the numbers look like?
I manage 12 people now.
12 people. Tell me some of the things that you do to help your employees, help those folks that you're directly responsible for apply their strengths. How do you do that in a real world setting in your business here?
Well, I think the thing about strengths is, and what you're learning in class, is that since everybody's are different, everybody is motivated differently, everybody has different talents in different areas and things they're just going to be naturally great at. And so a lot of what managing people is finding the thing that they are good at, and giving them more of that work, and then encouraging them in that work. And knowing that, okay, if interacting with someone isn't your thing and you're having to do a lot of it, let's try and take some of that away from you, give it to somebody else, and focus on the thing you're good at, because they're going to like their job more, and they're going to be more productive. And that's really a win for everyone. This year, we're actually having all of our employees take the Strengths Finder, because we're really trying to foster open communication, and knowing your coworker strengths is really helpful too, and figuring out who can help me with this task and who's going to be more naturally better at that.
That's great. And can you give us one specific example of where you felt like you just really kind of found a special, like a magical combination of a particular person and a role, or maybe just something within a role that allowed that person to use their strengths?
Yes. So I know that organization is not my strong suit. And it's because I have an idea and then I move on to the next thing. I have another idea and move on to the next thing. Someone you might meet here in a little bit, her name is Katie. She came to our team not really having any background in cars, but is naturally a very organized and strategic person. And so she came in the role and had kind of this little job that grew pretty exponentially. She now manages all the content we produce for Speedway Motors because she is so good at tracking something on a calendar, making sure it happens, moving every deadline forward, and paying attention to the little details that I really miss. And so I think it's just really building a team of different people that have different strengths that really, really helps make your entire company better.
Yep, and specifically in that situation, just a great partnership between you and Katie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we do want to have a conversation with Katie here in just a moment, so we'll introduce her. One other thing that I wanted to make sure that we grabbed on video before we brought Katie in was just, I think probably a lot of our students are just a little bit curious as to what does Speedway do? Especially if you grew up here in Lincoln, you saw Speedway Motors all over the place. You saw Speedway properties and all kinds of stuff all over Lincoln. So could you give us a kind of a quick idea about that?
Absolutely. So actually at Speedway Motors, we're celebrating our 65th anniversary this year. Speedy Bill and Joyce started this company in 1952, and they sell and have since then aftermarket street and race car parts. So if you drive a 1978-ish or before street rod vehicle or muscle car, we probably sell a part you're looking for if you're fixing it up. If you are a dirt track racer, we also sell parts for modifieds, late model, sprint cars, midgets, quarter midgets, all of that stuff. But if you're in Lincoln, what you've probably seen, and we ship that actually internationally. So most of you probably aren't a Speedway Motors customer and you wouldn't even know what we sell. But if you're in Lincoln, we have Speedway Properties, which is commercial real estate holdings here in Lincoln. So you'll see the number on the building and downtown or here or there. If you are in Lincoln, you might have also seen the Museum of American Speed, which is what we're sitting in right now. It's a pretty large collection of the history of the automobile. That's what they wanted to preserve, just how speed started and then how it kind of picked up. But really just to preserve, like, here's where people started with cars and then here's how it's progressed. And it's a pretty neat collection. You can visit their website and come visit anytime.
All right, now we're back with Betsy, obviously. You remember Betsy. But we're also here with Katie Bennett, and Katie is an employee here at Speedway and reports directly to Betsy. And so we wanted to just have a quick interaction or maybe just really explore the interactions that you guys have working together. And so what I wanted to do is kind of explore some of the Q12 that the students have been exposed to, some of those questions that they're asking of themselves and asking alumni, and really exploring what it means to be engaged at work. So when we think about engagement, engagement is an emotional engagement to work, and that means that you're committed to and invested in the work that you do every day. And so we kind of wanted to dive into that. Katie, why do you think you're engaged at work here at Speedway? What are some of the things that engages you in the work that you do?
Yeah, I would certainly say the number one thing would be the people here. I think it's a lot of team effort, and I think a lot of people rely on each other, and so the interaction and just building off of each other, I think, really keeps you engaged. And a lot of the projects then cross over, and a lot of people are involved, so you don't want to let your team down. So you're always staying engaged. You want to do your best work for the team. I think another thing is really people have their own areas of expertise, and I feel like I've really come into my area and have really just started to advance in that. So being very engaged in what I do there is
that's great. How did that happen for you? How did you? I'm assuming that that's been kind of an ongoing dialogue with Betsy around what you do well, and how did that evolve into you being into a position where you feel like you're really you have the skills and the knowledge to do it, but you also have an energy and a talent to do the position that you're in?
Yeah, I would say certainly part of it was timing. I began in web banners actually, and so I was doing a completely different task, and just through processing that and working through our budget, we decided that we no longer wanted to do banner ads, and so the timing just worked out. At the same time, our content position was opening up, and Betsy and I had previously known each other, and so she's fairly familiar with my strengths.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know what your top 5 strengths are?
I do.
Tell me what those are.
Yes, so my top 5 strengths are harmony, includer, learner, developer, and restorative.
Okay, great. So that whole idea of just the energy around learning something new is probably something that really engaged you with the work to begin with. And then tell me about the problems. So are there a lot of problems that are associated with the kind of work that you do that you have to solve on a daily basis?
Yes.
You're smiling, so I'm hoping that that's the case.
Yes, I would say some of the problems I think are, well, the position is kind of new, and so I think a lot of that was kind of figuring out, like, how does that work with other people? What roles do other people play, which kind of came in with my harmony and includer, figuring out how everyone works together and how that would best work for the position. And the second part, I think, would come in is just the learner, and that I run content and I run the calendar, and so there's a lot of learning to do with the industry itself, and then a lot of learning for the position. And this is my full-time position out of college, and so lots to learn about just the business industry as a whole.
That's great. Very good. Okay, so let's go back to that comments that you made about relationships and how important that is to your engagement here. So one of the questions that the students have been asking of themselves and other people is really about that recognition piece. And I think specifically we asked the question, have you received recognition in the last 7 days? So Betsy, why don't you talk a little bit about, some of the ways that you recognize, formal ways that you do that, informal, how does that happen? And maybe Katie, you can add to that as well. Yeah.
So as far as formal recognition goes, we don't do a ton, there's not a huge program or anything that we do at Speedway, but there is like an annual, you've been here a year, you've been here 10 years, you've been here every year at Christmas. We talk about that and kind of applaud the people that have been here. And there's awards for 5 and 10 years and all of that. I think more of our recognition on our team is a lot of like, you did a great job, I'm really proud of you on this project, little notes, letting people know if you've been talking about them in a good way to other people. I think we just do a lot of smaller things. Can you think of anything bigger?
Is there anything formally in a developmental review that you do as a manager with a direct report? Anything that happens in that way?
We do an annual review every year before the end of the year.
That would be annual, every year.
We do an annual review every year, which is why we call it annually. Thank you. Yes. And I'm telling you, I'm not the organizer. And in that review, we talk a lot about, okay, where are you at last year? Where are you at this year? How are you doing on this scale? Because we're an OSHA regulated business, we also talk about how safe you have been for the last year, which is always funny because we work at desks. So Katie, I don't want to shock anyone, but she got a 10 out of 10 on safety this year, guys. She killed it.
No carpal tunnel?
No carpal tunnel.
Okay, good.
Well, there are like desk exercises you can do to stretch your fingers and your shoulders. Anyway, so you do that, but I think it's more important to talk to people more frequently than just a year. I think it's important to submit that in and have paperwork and to everyone to let people know how everyone's doing. But I think you have to communicate a lot more frequently because if something's wrong, you kind of need to course correct before every year.
Right.
And as people do things well, you want to let them know you're doing a really great job. More of that. And so I think that's more important to happen a lot more frequently than just annually.
Good. All right, I'll put you on the spot again, Katie, and maybe this is putting Betsy on the spot as well, but what's the best recognition you've received since you've been working here at Speedway?
Yeah, I think one that's fairly recently, I don't know if it's within the 7 days there, but I kind of took on this new position, and so a lot of that came to our content calendar, we'll call it, and Betsy was actually reporting on it to the ownership team, and sent me a note that had said that she had recognized what I was doing and presented that to the larger group, and just complimented me on how it was going and what I had developed and how I improved it. And so I think just getting that recognition kind of to a larger group.
Great.
Which is,
And that encompasses a lot of what we know about great recognition, which means that not only is it frequent, is it coming on a fairly regular basis, but it's specific. And it seemed like the way she described that to you had specific details about it. It wasn't just like, hey, you're doing a great job, but here's one specific thing which you nailed it. This is what I did. This was the result, and having that specificity is really important.
Makes a big difference.
You bet. Anything else that you guys would add, about engagement or what it means to find that way to love the work that you do? Anything else that you'd add?
Just on Katie's note, I think having people that you surround yourself with and coworkers that you like makes an incredible difference in your happiness in the job. You spend more awake hours with this person than your spouse or your friends or your family. Like I see Katie all day, every day, and sometimes on the weekends. And so I think finding joy in who you surround yourself with is really important and helps you stay engaged at work and helps you just want to be more present. And that means working harder and everything else. I don't know. I just wanted to really emphasize that because it's a huge deal.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I would also add that you feel like your skills are being used and that you have the appropriate amount of responsibility where you're being challenged to a certain level, but not something's attainable, but it's not too far out of your reach, and that keeps moving and you keep improving on that.
That's great.
Boredom at work is terrible.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
no fun. There is an end of the internet.
That's right. Thanks so much, ladies. This has just been great. I appreciate you spending time with us today and answering my questions.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Bye, guys.